I'm showing my age here, but as a kid I remember the original Marsupilami cartoon across my television screen, which was backed with a lot of promotion here in the UK. Whilst I was never the biggest fan of the cartoon, I always thought that the character design was superb and the world of Palombia which was created was really nicely done. So here we are in 2021, and a couple of weeks ago I was looking at the Nintendo Switch release schedule for the all-important Christmas period, and lo and behold I saw a name that I hadn't thought about for what must be decades now. Then imagine my surprise when I saw the trailer for the game and it actually looked really impressive. What caught my eye the most was that I was instantly getting vibes of Rayman Origins, which is one of the very first games I reviewed on this channel all those years ago. Throw in a slice of Donkey Kong's Tropical Freeze for good measure, and what you can see in the game's trailer is thankfully exactly what you're going to get in the main game itself. Developed by Ocellus Studio and published by Microids, this 2.5D platform game takes inspiration from the very best that the platform game genre has had in, say, the past decade, and it creates a game packed with so much charm, thrills and fun that it becomes hard not to fall in love with its feel-good gameplay. The game's overall presentation is beautiful. The art direction as a whole, from the moment you turn on the game to its roughly 3-hour main storyline, is taking you from one stunning landscape to the next. The game's 3 main worlds each have their own unique personality, and when broken down into the levels they each contain, they'll take you on a journey through the jungle, into the clouds and exploring abandoned Aztec temples. The game begins with the Marsupilamis chilling in their beach house, and a mysterious skeleton is accidentally unlocked, and it has magical powers which can turn the animals into a trance-like state under his spell. But the Marsupilamis are not affected by this, and so it's up to you and whichever character you choose to go and find him to break the magical spell and free all of the animals. Playing the game on the Switch's OLED display really makes the colours pop, and with so much variation in the level design, the full colour palette is used here to create environments which you just want to spend more time in. I mentioned before that the adventure mode lasts approximately 3 hours for your average gamer, but like the smartest platform games, there's plenty to seek out in the levels. They are packed with hidden areas, bonus stages, and perhaps most importantly feathers for you to collect. The placement of these are also perfect. If you just want to go through the level start to finish and miss out on all of the collectibles, you can do that. But the most dedicated gamers can seek out all of those things I've just mentioned, which are all in well hidden areas. You can spend your time working out how you'll be able to collect each of the tricky to reach feathers and explore every nook in each of the game's 25 levels to truly find everything. Collecting the aforementioned feathers grants you access to secret stages and alternative levels, and so it's not just filler here. Upon completion of each level, it also unlocks a time trial mode to further extend the life of the game. One of my favourite 2D platform games was New Super Mario Bros. On the Nintendo DS, and in the same way I was gripped into 100% completing each level in that game, the same addictive quality can be found in Marsupilami. In between each of the main levels you'll also experience Dojo Levels, and these are often single screen stages which sees you jumping through hoops. But you'll need to polish your skills in order to complete them, and they'll also help you to build up your reflexes for the game's trickier later levels. I also previously mentioned Rayman Origins, and perhaps it's because the studio is French, but there are so many similarities in terms of the character design and level creation. It's been over 8 years since we last got a serious entry into the 2D Rayman series, that is if you exclude the mobile games, and it seems that Marsupilami has arrived just in time for Christmas to help scratch that itch for those who are still waiting for Rayman to get back to doing what he does best. As a 30-something-year-old man, the game is perhaps not aimed directly at me. Even the press release states that this game is aimed at the younger gamer, but definitely don't let that put you off. The game does have 3 difficulty modes, and playing on easy makes enemy and traps do little more than delay your progress. My advice is that after I completed the game on the normal difficulty, you really should perhaps be starting on the hard mode if you're a veteran of platform games to really get the best challenge that the game has to offer. Thankfully though, the challenge in the game comes from its level design and not the controls, because everything here is super responsive. And aside from maybe 1 or 2 moments in the game, you're unlikely to feel that you died because of the control system. Personally, I love playing on the Switch Pro controller, but even in handheld mode it feels incredibly responsive. The levels are so well crafted that they are screaming for speedruns. They have such a lovely flow to them that once you go back to a level after beating it, you can often work out how to seamlessly run, jump, roll and swing your way to the finish line in one parkour-like sequence. The first level 2 teaches you all the moves that you'll need to learn without punishing you with a frustrating tutorial. By the end of the first level, you should feel comfortable with how the game handles, and using Marsupilami's tail grab mechanic should start to feel like second nature. Perhaps one criticism I could make is one which I also applied to Yoshi's Story on Nintendo 64, and that's that there's no difference between the 3 playable characters here. Aside from choosing which one you like the look of, then they all play the same way in terms of gameplay. Perhaps by giving the characters slightly different attributes, it may have extended the lifespan of the game and been more suitable for multiple playthroughs, or having to play through each level with all characters to truly collect everything. This too would have fed more into the time trial mode if, for example, one character was quicker than the other, if one had a double jump, or if one could take more damage. It doesn't ruin the game, but I suspect that the focus from the studio was on creating a quality experience rather than padding out the game excessively, which they definitely succeeded with here. What I found most impressive though was the game's ability to let the player play the game the way that you want to. If you're an experienced player, you can play the game very quickly, using your roll skill to hastily rush through the levels to the finish line. If you're a more relaxed player, you can take things slowly, or even better if you're younger and aren't quite ready for the intense challenge that some modern platform games offer. The final boss of the game, however, is a real challenge, and I would like to see how many attempts it takes a top platform game YouTuber like DGR to complete, and maybe that's a challenge for him. Rounding off this sublime package is the game's music, which if any reviewer isn't mentioning, then they've clearly missed something here, because the game's music is fantastic. It ranges from cheery upbeat beach vibes to eerie ambient music in darkened locations, and pretty much everything you could expect in between. If you close your eyes, you could be forgiven for thinking that you were listening to a new Rayman game, because the soundtrack style is very similar, and that's perhaps the biggest compliment anyone can give the music here. This is further complemented by the fantastic sound effects, which further bring the levels to life and make the action in the game feel intense and satisfying. I often say that a game's soundtrack should blend into the gameplay to contain notes which suggest what you should be doing. Marsupilami nails it. When drifting along the river on the turtle's back, the music is slow and relaxing, and you'll hear the music quickly speed up the moment you need to run like crazy when being chased by a rolling boulder. It's all catchy, fits the game perfectly, and leaves a positive lasting impression. So much so that even after I finished playing the game, I was still whistling along to some of its tunes. It's fair to wrap things up by stating the obvious, and that's that I clearly love this game. Hardcore gamers or those expecting a longer or more challenging experience may be disappointed by its somewhat short length, but it's quality over quantity here for me. This is the kind of game I can share with my wife who rarely plays games, or pass around with my nephews who are all ages 10 and under, and given it's Christmas season coming up, it makes perfect sense to get this game for some perfect family friendly games to play that you can just pick up and play with your loved ones. And so for today's topic of conversation down below, I'd love to know what you make of this. Like me, was this your first time hearing about this game, and if so, what are your thoughts from what you've seen? Are you old enough to remember the original cartoon, and if so, what do you make of the new character designs? As always though, thank you for watching, and until next time.